Welcome to Brown in the City. This is Shante.
And this is Letitia.
And welcome to our 5th episode.
Today we're going to talk about why people struggle to love.
Struggling to love starts with the household. Growing up from childhood, and it affects also adulthood.
People get into relationships and they feel like they don't want to do too much or show vulnerability. So they struggle.
Growing up in a household where crying, expressing feelings wasn't an option. You were taught to be strong, have this tough skin, especially, little boys. Their dads always, would say, crying is not it. You have to be tough, and I believe growing up, that affects a person how to, give love and also receive love. I believe that definitely affects an adult, especially when it comes into getting into relationships. It's really, I believe it's like a tough thing because they have this guard up. Also, growing up, being taught that that's one thing, but then I would say growing up as an adult, you might have been taught to love. You might have those expressions in the household of telling your parents or your parents telling you love them. But growing up, being an adult now, you might have been in relationships whereas though you put your trust out there, you gave your love, and that love was broken. So that also puts a guard up for the next person that comes into your life to give the love or even just express it.
I think that a lot of people struggle with love because they came from like unhealthy relationships where they could have possibly been verbally abused. They have like a guard up, like they feel like they don't want to give anyone else their love because they don't really know how to feel comfortable with someone else after they trusted someone so much and that person did whatever they did to them, whether it's mentally, verbally. It could be you go into a relationship and you trusted someone and they cheated on you, so it might be hard for you to trust anybody else for a while.
Like I said, it comes from the root of the home. By nature is by nurturing your children. You learn from, what you experienced growing up in your childhood. But also, some people experience growing up in survival.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up in survival, it's hard to express certain feelings of how you may feel, or even like speaking up. Sometimes things that you've been through as a child shuts you down, whereas though you're not really open, about expressing anything, communicating how you feel.
And unfortunately, we live in a days and time where it's like social media. Mm-hmm. Everybody is so easily accessible that people feel like they don't have to work for their relationship because they feel like they could just go to the next person. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people struggle to love because they just want to go to the next thing instead of working on what they got going on. So It's just, that's the world we live in now, and it's sad, but you really live in a world where people don't appreciate what they got. They feel like they could just go to the next person.
Yeah.
Everything is so easily accessible.
I agree with you on that. Instagram is really that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like some people are just like overly picky. Like they want a man that makes this, or they want a man that can do that, or he gotta be this height, or he gotta be this short. Like it's like people are so picky that love could be going right by you. Like sometimes it's not meant for you to have that tall man. Maybe it's meant for him to be short. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's meant, if you want to be loved properly, you shouldn't have all those. I mean, I'm not saying that you're not supposed to have thoughts in your mind of what kind of man you want, but sometimes we get a little too picky and we miss out on something good. So I feel like that's why some people struggle to love, because they're being too picky, too overly picky.
Yeah, I also, believe in that also brings in like insecurity, and they feel abandoned. You start overthinking things. That also brings in, like the love, the trust of, trusting someone to really pour your emotions into because of, things that might have been said, as far as like insecurities are concerned. So, yeah, I just believe that it definitely starts from childhood to adulthood. It really puts I think a barrier between the other person that really cares for you, that's there for you, and to literally not have that individual to open up to them and express, how they, they love, they care. And now let me just say this, because even though a lot of people or some people don't express the feelings of, telling you I love them, they do things in action to literally, to literally show you that they care, show you that they love you. So even though you may want to hear it, they do it through action.
And to me, that's really all that matters. I mean, I'm not saying that you're supposed to hear I love you, but when somebody's showing you and they're doing everything they're supposed to do, that's a way of saying they love you. Everybody just don't know how to deliver it.
Yeah.
And like Shantae said, she said that it comes from childhood. So that trait could have came from childhood. Maybe they didn't have that when they was growing up. But I do think that sometimes it starts with adulthood, depending on who you dealt with during that time. You could have had a great childhood.
How do you navigate being unworthy? How do you handle those feelings and those emotions when you don't feel like your worth is not important? No matter how much you put yourself out there to show or to tell this person that you love them, and it's not reciprocated, how do you navigate through that? I feel like that also will shut you down. How long do you wait around for the person to come out of this shell, to express their feelings?
Well, I always say time will tell. You can't wait forever. So, everybody have different time limits. So, whenever you feel like you can't do it no more. I think a lot of people are also like introverted and like shy. A lot of people don't want to. It's not that they don't feel a way, but a lot of times it's just their personality. They're like shy. They don't know how to bring it out. They don't know how to tell us, or people in general, how they feel, because that's just them.
Yeah, it's just like, you just have to.
I think you just got to know a person.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to know a person too. I would say that.
Yeah, and then in that aspect of it, it's like, take the initiative to teach them how to love. I know for me, I grew up in a strong family dynamic. I love my family. We are very, very close. We always tell each other that we love each other, especially when we're talking on the phone. We always tell each other that we love each other. So I grew up in a nurturing environment where you love and you don't be afraid to express it. I would say adults who lack love as children often have to relearn how to care for themselves in ways they never were, which may be challenging, but healing at the same time. So, that being said, it takes time to learn learn that, especially if you've never received it growing up.
That's true.
Yeah.
It could be a low self-esteem issue too. Some people feel like they are unworthy of love. So they don't know how to give it or receive it. So sometimes it's just they low self-esteem, like they don't feel good about themselves, so they just don't put themselves out there like that.
And like I said, also like with the social media, that plays a major part in it too, because they see what majority is not real.
And you know, people don't want to put themselves out there.
They,
Like, it's hard to even trust anybody that will do the right thing for you in these days and time, because like I said, everything is so easily accessible. You can get to this person, get to that person. It's just too much going on. So
and it can be very discouraging.
That's for sure.
Very discouraging, and I would just say, if you're experiencing how to open up, let it take time. Take your time. Let it take its course, and just know that everybody isn't the same. Everybody's not going to treat you how you were treated. So. Especially you have to kind of learn how to, just navigate opening up a little bit.
Household plays a big part in how you love.
It's not by nature, it's by nurturing your children.
That's true.
It's by nurturing your children.
I will say this too. I do feel like some people do what they wasn't taught.
I would say growing up with neglect and abuse plays a major factor in trust and giving love, and also receiving love, growing up into adulthood, because all they know is the verbal disrespect. So
some people just fear rejection too. Like some people they struggle to love because they fear that they might be rejected by someone that they really love, or by someone that they want to be with or want to show love to. They might be rejected. So nobody wants to be rejected.
I definitely agree with that. It's really hard for them to, it's a lot of second guessing. And that's where it goes into the overthinking part.
Right.
Because that individual may be so, highly over heels with you, and just because he or she, haven't said it,
right,
or expressed it, they may be feeling the same way. So at this point, somebody has to kind of like break the ice and, just put yourself out there and hey, if you feel rejected in a way, don't let that put you in a closed, door, whereas though, hey, I'm not going to ever open this door up again to express my emotions, because like I said, everybody isn't the same, So
some people have just been in a very unhealthy relationship, so a lot of times they just don't want to do it no more. Like they take their time. So a lot of times they just not in a rush. Like they might get there, but they just not in a rush to get into the whole relationship thing.
Growing up in a dysfunctional household teaches some to believe that love means drama, high and lows, or emotional instability. So if you're growing up in a drama household, your life is drama. It seems like some people that grew up in that hostile drama environment, that's what keeps them going. Everything is drama. It affects everything. It affects your job. It affects your relationships. It affects the relationships that you have with your children, if you have children. I just believe that it affects your everyday life, because it's like you're high off drama. Drama, that's just your thing. So if you grew up in that type of atmosphere, are you able to come from that? Or is it something that you just, you know, it's in you and you just can't get it out of you?
I really feel that people, just they have the fear of getting hurt, putting your feelings out there and not receiving it back. It could be a friend. It could be someone that your partner. It could be your child. Struggling to love is just struggling to love in general.
Well, I mean, I think too, like, you know, like I said, as far as like growing up in the chaos of, you know, there's always an issue. I believe as, you know, when you become an adult, you know, if you can't leave that, it's like you live off of that. It's like you're trying to prove a point.
Final thought would be that developing emotional walls can prevent anyone from finding any intimate connection.
Yeah, so trust becomes a risk and love feels dangerous.
Thank you so much, guys, for listening. And please go follow our podcast at Brown in the City Podcast on Instagram.
And our YouTube channel, Brown in the City.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good night.